Hi, my name is Jacqueline Soto and this is my final project for educational psychology, which is a final lesson plan based on Bloom's taxonomy format, and my theory to develop is scaffolding. The name of the lesson is Illustrated Vocabulary Booklet. In a brief summary, my intentions with this lesson was to encourage students to make a booklet in which they can explain some vocabulary based on animals, fantasy, terror, etc. in order to make a little story could be. This lesson plan was based on a literature English class. My students will be from upper elementary school, more or less around 9 or 11 years old, up to 12 or 13, could be. The booklet would be a little format in which they can illustrate some sentences that the students will make up based on the work they had already done in class. So let's begin. In learning objectives, which has to do with Bloom's taxonomy, we have at first remember. Students will recall words related to a topic they had chosen: animals, fantasy, terror, superheroes, nature. And then they have the activity to develop, in which the teacher will show images of the four topics the students can choose. The students will participate in a brainstorm about what words do they know related to the topics shown. And this has to do with scaffolding, because of the use of previous knowledge, words that the students already know, and visual aids, images shown on the board that help the students remember settings and context. Then we have understand. Students will explain the words they already know in simpler examples. Then we have the description of the activity. In groups, the teacher will show a small table of words related to the topic seen before, and the students will explain to their classmates in simple examples what do some words mean. For example, unicorn related to fantasy, a horse with a horn, which is magical. Together, the students analyze the words shown and explain if they already knew them. Related to the topics they choose, students can look up for images so they can describe better the words on books and short stories on the library. This has to do with the scaffolding because of the students helping each others with the aid of the teacher. The teacher can help students in order to find an easy way to define the new words presented. Also, the teacher providing visual aid is another characteristic of scaffolding. And also, allowing students to look up for real examples around the classroom and in the school has to do with scaffolding too, because then students can relate to the images or the stories that they had found on the library. Making simpler examples has to do with the scaffolding because it aids the students to process the information in a more simpler way. Then we have apply. Students make short sentences using the new words shown. In this part of the activity, students can pick up words for the four topics. Basically, basing on the words that the teacher shown before on a table, the students will make simple sentences using the new vocabulary based on the structure that the teacher will explain on the board. So the teacher will be guiding the students in order to acquire a new writing structure on the board. This has to do with the scaffolding because of the students have been guided through the process of making up simple sentences. The teacher has given them the new vocabulary and provided structure that the students may follow. So, one of the most important characteristics of scaffolding is the aid of the teacher, so the students may feel guided or accompanied by him or her so they can acquire the new knowledge. In this part of my lesson, I think it fits well with the part of applying because the students are using the words that had been shown before by the teacher, and now they're trying to put that words in sentences in a structure that the teacher is about to explain. So, one of the aids that the teacher had given to them were the new words or the vocabulary, and now the teacher is giving a structure that the students must follow. And this is important in scaffolding because in further stages, the students will be able to do that by themselves, but first they need the guidance of the teacher. Now we have analyze. Using the sentences they already make, students will categorize them in the topics the teacher gave them. And then I have the explanation of the activity. In teams, the students will gather together so they can analyze the sentences they had make individually. The students will categorize the sentences and choose one topic to make the booklet in teams. This has to do with the scaffolding because now students are analyzing their own sentences and are sharing their answers together. Students will discover how close or related are they with the topics and make relations between what they already know and what they had learned. Also, we see in this stage the importance of teamwork because, yeah, the teacher may help the students, but also when we have teamwork or paired work and the students are exchanging their own ideas, this has to do with scaffolding too because of social cooperation. Sometimes it's more simpler when a student explains to other student what they had seen in class. So, when the students help each other, they are developing scaffolding because they are making simpler the topic they already seen and they are working together so they understand better the topic. Also, the part of the analyze has to do with making relations between what I already know and what they now had learned, which has to do with meaningful learning, which is also part of scaffolding. Meaningful learning is when students make relations on what they already know and with the new information. So the meaningful learning will be developed with making relation of the words that the students already know and now connecting that with the explanations of the teacher and the ideas that the students share between each other. Now in the evaluated stage, we have that students will make a first draft of the booklet so they can discuss in teams if the descriptions they had made correspond or make clear the sentences they want to illustrate. By using drawings and the sentences they made, students will pick 10 sentences that they want to illustrate in the booklet. Together, the students will discuss if the sentences and the drawings clearly explain the sentences they picked. The teacher may correction if it is necessary to the sentences the students wrote. This has to do with the scaffolding because the students are already working by their own and they analyze their own sentences. The teacher still helps the students to make correction, but students identify their own mistakes in teams. So this reinforces the teamwork and at the same time the teacher's aid is diminuting because students are getting closer to developing their own knowledge by themselves. The importance of the teacher still being by the side of the students in order to give corrections is still an aid, but we can realize that the help has been decreasing because now students have been working more on their own. We still see the teamwork, but by this time, students have been more independent, which is one of the purposes of scaffolding. Finally, we have the create stage, which includes that after doing the corrections the teacher may found, the students make their booklet in teams and they present it to their classmates. Applying the corrections that the teacher gave, students make the final booklet to present it, using colors, markers, and their own drawings or images. So, finally, the students achieved the goal of scaffolding, acquiring the knowledge and creating their own pieces but what they had learned. At this point, students gained vocabulary and now know how to make simple sentences and can explain to the other classmates. This is the final and most important stage of scaffolding because now students are independent of the teacher and they are able to apply the knowledge they had acquired through the class by themselves. In this case, the final product is the booklet, in which students now apply the vocabulary they had seen before, they apply the structure they have seen before, and by working together, now students apply in teams what they had seen into the final product. If we see, the teacher aide had been present through the whole process, but now students are more independent because now they are able to explain to other classmates what they have done. And hopefully, if students need to apply this after, they will be able to because now they had acquired this information as meaningful knowledge because of the relation they had made before on the previous things they have knew about this vocabulary and connecting it to the new vocabulary to the structure and the examples they have wrote in the sentences in the booklet. So basically that was my lesson plan. That's all for my part and hope it is great. Thank you.